Hold on tight, because what started as a simple family disagreement just spiraled into one of the most chaotic, emotional, and downright explosive internet sagas of the year. They say blood is thicker than water, but in this story, money, fame, and betrayal ran thicker than anything else. Rumors are swirling that Chrisean's own sister, Tranche, allegedly held little Junior hostage, demanding a ransom so high it could make your jaw drop. On paper, they said $15,000. But behind the scenes? Insiders whispered it was closer to $100,000. Yes, $100,000. For her own nephew. Let that sink in. The internet immediately split in two, one side screaming, "This is extortion," the other defending Tranche, saying she was just doing what a desperate sister had to do. But beneath all the noise, something darker was brewing, a secret storm that would pull the entire family into chaos. While all this was unraveling, Chrisean was in New York with her new man, hood trophy beau, filming, smiling, pretending like life was picture perfect. Cameras flashing, music playing, followers gushing. But back in Baltimore? A silent war was starting. Junior was with Tranche, who claimed she was spending her own money to take care of him, feeding him, clothing him, covering every expense. Meanwhile, Chrisean insisted she was already paying her sister whenever she asked. But it was never enough. That is when accusations started flying. "You are using my child for clout, you are exploiting me, you are lying." And suddenly, what used to be sisterly love turned into a full-blown battle for control, one side armed with screenshots, the other with receipts. When things finally reached a breaking point, Chrisean decided to fly back home. But instead of going herself, she sent another sister, Tessa, to pick Junior up. Big mistake. Tranche refused to hand him over. She called Tessa mentally unstable, claimed she was off her meds, and said she could not trust her with the child's safety. It was not just a refusal, it was a message: "You will not take him unless I say so." That is when everything flipped. Chrisean showed up herself, this time with Child Protective Services and the police. Cameras rolled, neighbors peeked through their windows, and hood trophy beau stood beside her like some kind of superhero, ready to save the day. When the dust settled, Chrisean got Junior back. And for a moment, just a small moment, it seemed like the chaos had ended. But anyone who follows this family online knows, peace never lasts long when pride and social media collide. Enter Destiny, Tranche's daughter. The one person who could have stayed silent. But instead, she lit the match that reignited the fire. She took to social media with a long, emotional post, defending her mother like a warrior in battle. She wrote about how her mom worked tirelessly, took Junior everywhere, paid for his clothes, his food, everything. She accused Chrisean of sending money only when she felt like it, big bills but rare moments. Her tone was calm but cold, the kind of calm that hides 1,000 unsaid words. She wanted the world to know her mother was not the villain. But then, the internet did what it always does. Screenshots flew. Fan pages reposted. Group chats exploded. And suddenly, Destiny's post was everywhere. When Chrisean saw it, she snapped. No holding back, no filter. She accused Destiny of begging for money in DMs, of being fake, of chasing clout off her family's pain. It was no longer about family. It was about public humiliation. The line between private life and internet spectacle had vanished, and what was left was raw, messy, emotional warfare for the whole world to watch. By the end of it, no one looked innocent. Tranche looked desperate. Chrisean looked reckless. Destiny looked heartbroken. And social media? It feasted on every second of their pain. Because in today's world, family drama is no longer private, it is content. And in this case, it was the kind of content that left people asking one chilling question: how far will people go, when love, money, and fame are all on the line? When Chrisean spoke, the internet stopped breathing. His words were not just petty comments, they were public daggers, thrown with precision. He accused Destiny of being fake, of hiding behind maturity while secretly begging for attention. And to prove his point, he did what influencers do best: he posted screenshots. Were they real? Were they edited? No one knew. But in the digital age, truth does not matter, virality does. Within minutes, Destiny's comment section turned into a battlefield. Thousands of strangers stormed in, calling her spoiled, manipulative, an attention hunter feeding off her mother's drama. The cruelty was relentless. And for Tranche, or Trian, as her followers call her, it was the breaking point. Because when a mother watches her child get ripped apart by the internet, something inside her snaps. Trian went live, not for fame, not for clout, but out of pure, trembling fury. Her face was puffy, her voice cracked between exhaustion and rage. She said she had been sacrificing everything to keep Junior safe and fed while everyone else was turning her pain into content. "You talk about me like I do not bleed, like I do not cry," she said, eyes glistening under harsh ring light. You do not know what it is like trying to raise a child while the whole world judges every move you make. Her fans flooded the comments with red hearts and prayer emojis. But the trolls? They just multiplied. Every tear she shed became another meme. Every emotional word became another headline. And somewhere in the chaos, Chrisean stayed quiet. From the outside, it looked like peace. But in this world, silence is never peace. Silence is strategy. Chrisean posted photos with Junior, laughing, smiling, pretending like the storm had passed. But every post was a spark. Was it a mother's joy? Or a subtle jab at Chrisean? The internet debated endlessly. Some said she was healing. Others said she was gloating. But no matter what she did, every click, every caption, every smile, turned into another argument. And slowly, fans began to pick sides. Two armies formed online. One stood with Chrisean, calling her the real caregiver, the one who had held everything together while the cameras were off. The other defended Chrisean, saying she was being unfairly labeled unstable when all she wanted was her child back. And then there were the spectators, the ones who did not care who was right or wrong. They were there for the entertainment. For them, this was not a family tragedy, it was season 2 of their favorite drama series. Memes were made. Reaction videos dropped. Edits went viral. Every tear became a soundbite. Every argument became content. The line between reality and performance was gone, swallowed whole by algorithms and hashtags. After days of being mocked and dissected online, Destiny vanished. Some said she was humiliated. Others whispered her mother had told her to stay offline. But even when she disappeared, the internet refused to let her go. Chrisean fans dug through her old posts, twisted her words, and turned her screenshots into evidence, proof, depending on the bias, that either Chrisean was a manipulator or Chrisean was an unfit mother. The truth stopped mattering. It was no longer about Junior, it was about winning the internet war. People who had never met any of them started writing essays, pretending to know the truth, claiming moral authority over strangers they only knew through clips and captions. And somewhere in all this noise, the saddest reality emerged. Junior, the child at the center of it all, was no longer a person. He had become a symbol. Every "he belongs with his mom" and "he is safer with Chrisean" was not really about love, it was about control. Each side wanted to prove they were the better guardian, the stronger protector, the purer heart. But what no one asked was, what does Junior see when he looks at this chaos? He sees adults clawing for validation in comment sections. He sees strangers turning his childhood into gossip. And one day, he will scroll through all of it, the screenshots, the fights, the tears, and realize his story was not told by family, but by followers. Then came the whispers, legal action. People claimed court papers were being filed, that lawyers were getting involved. Gossip blogs threw out names, TikTok pages claimed inside sources. But by that point, it did not even matter. The drama had already done its job. Every person involved had cried, defended, and gained followers. Pain had become publicity. Chrisean eventually stepped back. No more long lives. No more back and forth. She said she was choosing peace, but peace online is just another story waiting to break. Fans speculated she was planning something, a documentary, a tell-all, maybe just her next emotional resurrection. And Destiny? She began posting cryptic quotes. Ones about betrayal, loyalty, growth, the kind that make you wonder who they are really meant for. The timeline moved on. The hashtags faded. But the scars, both digital and emotional, remained. Because in this twisted theater of social media, where tears trend and truth sells, one thing is certain, the internet never forgets, it only waits for the next act. Just when everyone thought the storm was finally over, Chrisean decided to throw gasoline on the ashes. He doubled down, posting cryptic quotes about fake people and snakes in disguise. Every post felt like a riddle, every caption like a bullet aimed at someone's reputation. He never said names, but everyone knew who he meant, Chrisean and her daughter. And the wildest part? He seemed to enjoy it. Each comment, each reply, each messy repost, it all felt like part of his game. The more outrage he caused, the more attention he got. Meanwhile, Tessa, the sister caught in the middle, stayed silent. Some said her silence came from heartbreak. Others whispered that she was waiting, watching, collecting receipts for her own moment to speak. But at that point, truth no longer mattered. This was not about who was right or wrong anymore, it was about ego, pride, and the desperate race to control the narrative. By now, the internet had chosen its new obsession. Names like Chrisean, Destiny, Chrisean, Tessa. They were no longer just people, they had become characters in a live-streamed soap opera. Each one had their own fanbase, their own backstory, their own truth. And just like a reality show, every apology video felt like an episode, every cryptic caption a cliffhanger. Millions watched. Millions judged. And what was once a family's pain became a spectacle for entertainment. Behind the comment wars, though, was something far more tragic, a group of people trying to survive in a world where every private wound becomes public property. In the end, no one truly won. Chrisean had her child back, yes, but she also had the world watching her every move, waiting for her next mistake. Chrisean kept her dignity, but she lost the peace she had been fighting for. Destiny spoke up to defend her mother, and was torn apart by strangers for it. And Khan? He got the attention he craved, but became the villain in his own story. And through it all, little Junior was just there, caught in the middle of a social media war he never asked for. A child whose name trended more times than it should have. A symbol for adults who had forgotten what this fight was really about. This was not a story about family anymore. It was about the curse of living your life online, where every heartbreak turns into headlines, every emotion becomes content, and every apology feeds the same machine that caused the pain. People cried, apologized, promised to change, and then did it all over again. Because in this digital arena, drama is currency, and pain pays the bills. But just when everyone thought they had seen the worst of it, Chrisean dropped a bombshell that froze timelines. She went live again, and this time, she came with receipts and rage. According to her, Chrisean had been diagnosed with chlamydia around the time she gave birth to Junior. It sounded unbelievable, like something too wild to be true. But Chrisean insisted it was real, claiming doctors had advised Chrisean to deliver by C-section to protect both mother and child. And yet, Chrisean allegedly refused. Why? Because she did not want to ruin her tattoo. The internet gasped. People paused mid-scroll, jaws dropped. If that was true, if she had really refused a medically necessary procedure to protect body art, it was not just reckless. It was heartbreaking. Because here is what most people do not realize: untreated chlamydia during pregnancy can be devastating. It can pass from mother to child during delivery, causing serious infections, blindness, and even pneumonia in newborns. So when rumors spread that Junior might have struggled with his vision, or that his early cries sounded raspy and weak, suddenly, it all sounded less like gossip, and more like a horrifying possibility. This was not just a messy family feud anymore. It was a story about pride, pain, and denial, and the way fame can twist people until they forget what really matters. Because when you start choosing image over safety, tattoos over life, and followers over family, you are no longer just fighting your relatives. You are fighting your own reflection. As the dust began to settle, no one could say for sure what was true and what was exaggerated. Maybe some details were twisted. Maybe all of them were. But what remained undeniable was the emotional wreckage, a family shattered in full view of the public eye, each member trying to reclaim their humanity while strangers debated their worth in comment sections. And at the center of it all was one haunting truth: the internet does not heal, it consumes. In this world, pain becomes performance, secrets become stories, and even innocence becomes entertainment. Because once something hits the timeline, it is no longer yours. It belongs to the world. And you already know how the internet works. The moment someone drops a bomb that explosive, it spreads like wildfire. Comment sections turn into war zones. People start zooming in on screenshots, rewinding videos, connecting dots that were never meant to connect, like it's a true crime case instead of real lives unraveling online. And right in the middle of that digital chaos, Carissa stepped in. It is almost like she has a sixth sense for drama. The minute something messy happens, she's there, front row, camera in hand, caption loaded, waiting to strike. She hit post faster than anyone could refresh their feed, reminding the world, with a smirk hidden behind emojis, that Chrisean still did not have a house. It was not subtle. It was not playful. It was surgical shade, sharp enough to draw blood. But this time, Chrisean was done staying quiet. She came back swinging, no filters, no PR polish, no fake humility. Her words hit like punches: mind your own damn business. The gloves were off. It was raw. It was personal. Every sentence dripped with frustration from years of being mocked, doubted, and misunderstood. And suddenly, this was not just an argument, it was a public duel for dignity, for dominance, for control. Every live stream felt like a battlefield. Every new post, a grenade. Thousands of people tuned in each time one of them went live, watching in silence, waiting for someone to cry, to curse, to slip, to expose something new. It was no longer a feud. It was a slow-motion car crash, horrifying to witness, but impossible to look away from. Meanwhile, the comment sections turned into war zones of their own. The internet had formed its little armies, digital soldiers defending their favorite side. Some rallied behind Chrisean: she's been through enough. She's trying her best. Others came swinging for Chrisean's defense: she's the only stable one in this mess. And then came the comments that cut deeper than any insult, the ones that hit like cold truth. One person wrote, "Chrisean isn't a victim. If she wanted her child, she'd go get him. Sending money for your child's food isn't ransom. Don't call it extortion when you owe people for babysitting. Step up and be a parent. Harsh? Maybe. But painfully real. And then, another comment hit the algorithm like lightning. Junior was doing fine before. He had clothes, parties, peace. But now he's back in that same black stroller, turned to the wall, while his mom's out partying and chasing men. That image, the child in the stroller, facing the corner while the world watches his mother spiral, broke people. It was a scene too heartbreaking to ignore. And once that image went viral, there was no going back. Because here's the brutal truth, the internet never forgives, and it definitely never forgets. Every mistake. Every tear. Every argument. Captured. Clipped. Reposted. People started digging up old interviews, old promises, old apologies. Clips where Chrisean said she was changing. Healing. Moving on. And yet, here she was again, trapped in another emotional storm. You could almost feel the exhaustion in the air, even her fans looked tired. They begged her in the comments, please, take a break. Get therapy. Focus on your baby. You're too talented for this. But others were more cynical. They believed she thrived on chaos, that without the noise, without the cameras, without the fights, she would not know who she was anymore. A tragic paradox, a woman craving peace, but addicted to the storm. And through it all, like a ghost haunting every argument, there was Blueface. Even when he was not mentioned, his shadow lingered. Every emotional outburst, every breakdown, every relapse, people whispered his name. They said she was still chasing closure from a man who had already broken her long before the cameras rolled. That she was stuck in a loop, trying to prove she had moved on, but still chained to his ghost. Maybe that is why she clings to the spotlight, because in it, she can rewrite the story, even if just for a moment. But the truth always finds a way to surface, no matter how many filters you use to cover it. Because the internet's attention span? It is ruthless. Today, you are trending. Tomorrow, you are forgotten. But the scars you leave behind, they stay. And the biggest scar of all, is Junior. A child who never asked for fame. Who never asked to be a hashtag, a headline, or a storyline. One day, he will grow up and see all of this, the fights, the lives, the chaos, and try to understand who his parents really were through the lens of a world that never gave them mercy. And when that day comes, what will he feel? Will he see victims? Or villains? Will he see love? Or just pain wearing makeup for the camera? Because that's the real tragedy here, not the gossip, not the shade, not the views. It's the fact that somewhere beneath all the drama, a child is watching a world tear itself apart, just for entertainment. It is heartbreaking to imagine, truly. Because beneath every video, every live, every rant, there is something that never gets talked about, the pain. Chrisean might act strong, she might laugh, yell, and keep her guard up, but pain like that does not disappear. It seeps through the cracks. You can see it in her late-night lives when her eyes look heavy, in her trembling voice when she mentions missing her baby. You can hear it in the pauses between her sentences, that quiet ache that no filter can hide. And that is what makes this story so difficult to watch. It is no longer entertainment. It is someone falling apart in real time, while the world watches, comments, screenshots, and turns it into a meme.